Welcome back everyone to the video, and today we are ranking every single offense headed into the 2024 NFL season. This is going to be kind of like part one of part two in a way. Basically, right now, this is I think mini camps ended for most teams by now, not all of them, but for some of them. And so we're uploading this video now after mini camp, and then we're gonna do this again after or during training camp. So it's like, we kind of get to see a bit more of some of these rookies and just guys on new teams and see how it looks. So this is before we get to see more. So there will be a few changes as the offseason goes on, and any new signings as well. So this is like kind of a rough draft, and there'll be a final draft later on in July. So this is just as of right now how I see it for every offense. We have 5 different tiers today, which is S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. So if you guys have watched my videos before, I don't always use the D tier too much unless I feel like there's a really bad play or like a really bad offense or defense or anything like that. So we'll see if we use any today. And then obviously S tier is the highest, and then it goes down like that. If you guys are in here though, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you do enjoy today's video, because we are on the road to 1,000. Currently I think 652 the last I checked. So thanks for all the support there. I do really appreciate it. And we're just going to jump right into it, starting with the Ravens. The Ravens I'm just going to put in S tier because to me, this was one of the better offenses and better teams all last season. And specifically for this video, focusing on the offense, not a whole lot really changed for the Ravens offense. I think last season there was a kind of some concerns around Lamar if he was going to stay healthy. And, with this new look offense last year with, I think Todd Monken is his name, him coming in there, and it looked way different. Lamar stayed healthy, and it was an AFC Championship appearance, and he won MVP. So it was a big turnaround, a lot more consistent in the air attack. So, yeah, I see it being, very similar this year. Now they add Derrick Henry, so they can mix in a lot of options there. Like it a lot. You lose Odell, not the biggest loss in the world. I love Odell, literally one of my favorite players ever, but he's not prime Odell. He's just not. So it's not a huge loss. Ravens are S tier. Next is the Bears, and I'm glad that the Bears are close to the front, so I can go ahead and say this now. So because I said we're doing this before training camp, when it comes to teams with rookies starting at quarterback, I am going to rank them very conservatively. I'm not going to be like, okay, Bears, S tier, because we really haven't seen anything from Caleb Williams yet, obviously. Training camp will give us a bit more of a glimpse at that, especially with joint practices and stuff like that. It's still not good to, put all your stock in, training camp or preseason and stuff like that. But just for more context, I do think it is relatively important. So, 4 teams with rookies starting, I'm going to not rank them as aggressively as maybe they could be ranked. So the Bears are going B tier. I think it goes without saying that they have an A tier offensive, their potential on offense is A tier, with people like DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet. You bring in Gerald Everett as well. It's a really loaded offense, and it just hinges on Caleb Williams. And so hearing that sounds like, man, how could you have that offense in B tier right now? But like I said, we haven't seen anything from Caleb Williams. And I am just going to be playing it safe, at least for right now. If a month from now, when training camp rolls around and we're seeing more, and it's kind of more like game speed drills against other defenses, I probably will honestly be more aggressive with my ranking. But for right now, we're going to keep it relatively conservative. And I said before, though, when it comes to Caleb Williams and the Bears, I think some people see Caleb Williams as coming in and being league altering. Other people aren't sold on him at all. And for me, I don't think he's going to be an instant top 5 quarterback or anything. I wouldn't say it's off the table, but personally, I don't see that happening. But I think the thing that people get caught up in is trying to see him as this, the next Patrick Mahomes, when in reality, the Bears have done a very good job assembling that offense to where Caleb Williams doesn't have to be that at all. He just has to be a relatively average quarterback at worst, and the offense should be pretty productive and pretty successful. So, yeah, I don't see a world where the Bears offense is worse than B tier. I think it's only up from there, and that's why I'm putting them B tier. And next is the Eagles. So the Eagles are a tough one because in 2022, they were one of the best. Last year, they had a good season. It wasn't, I think, on the same level, offensively at least, well, and defensively too, as it was in 2022. But you have a good record till that week 11, week 12, and you just kind of implode and then get bounced first round. I think Hurts was injured at one point. I think the coaching was the main issue, though. It was a complete change from 2022. It was not as aggressive downfield. Some really odd play calls on 3rd and 9 QB draws. It just didn't do anything. It was very strange. I see the Eagles offense looking a lot better now with Kellen Moore in there. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, even if he's not, top 5 in your eyes or even top 10. He's a good quarterback, and he's very capable of leading an offense with, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and all of them. He is very capable of leading them to be an A-tier offense, and that's where I'm going to put him this year. I think they bounced back a little bit. I would say last year, to be honest, they were closer to B tier than A tier because they just weren't consistent at all. You didn't really know what you were getting. I see more consistency this year. I think they're going in A tier with that kind of coaching change there. I think it'll benefit them a lot. Next is the Panthers. This is my favorite team, obviously. I always try, and if you guys are new to the channel here, I guess, if people, watched me before, you probably know, but I do try and stay completely unbiased when it comes to ranking teams. There's obviously teams I'm a fan. Like, there's obviously teams that I don't like versus teams that I do like. Like, I really hate the Falcons, but when I rank them, I'm not going to, let that factor in there. So when it comes to the Panthers being, like, my favorite team, I have to be careful to not let any of, like, my optimism kind of get in there. If I did allow my optimism to get in there, I would probably put them B tier. I'm going to put them C tier, but here's what I will say. As someone that, follows this team, as closely as I possibly can, unfortunately, Bryce Young struggled a lot his rookie year. They really didn't surround him with anyone. The coaching didn't benefit him. He was already undersized. It was a horrible, horrible situation. You bring in Dave Canales now, who has a reputation for helping out quarterbacks, like Geno Smith in Seattle, like Baker Mayfield last year in Tampa Bay. He comes in with the things that I've already seen. It looks like Bryce Young's footwork is already better. Not to mention in the draft, I think you honestly get a few key assets like Xavier Legette, like Jonathan Brooks, like Jatavion Sanders for tight end. Like, you're getting guys that Bryce Young can actually grow and develop with, which is a big deal. We've seen that when it doesn't happen, it really hurts quarterbacks. And we'll get to that next with New England. But, I think the Panthers could be a B-tier offense, but I'm not going to put them there. I think a lot of it hinges on Bryce Young. And while I believe in Bryce Young now with, someone like Deontay Johnson in there who's, known for being an amazing route runner and great at separating, something the Panthers didn't have all last season, I could be very aggressive and say B tier, huge jump. I'm going to keep it C tier right now. But same for Caleb Williams. If we see this, a month from now, things are picking up a bit more. It looks to be a lot more of a different offense. I might put that B tier because from what's been said, they are supposed to be focusing on the run a bit more as well to put the pressure off of Bryce Young. So a lot of things to consider, but I'm just going to be relatively conservative like I was with the Bears and put them C tier. And so next is the Patriots, and the reason I made that comment about, like, we've seen when teams don't surround quarterbacks, it does not work out well. It's that's Mac Jones' story, basically, in New England. He showed potential his rookie year, but after that it fell apart. There's coaching changes. There was personnel changes. I mean, getting Juju Smith-Schuster, it does not count as surrounding your potential franchise quarterback with weapons. You need more than that. You got to go out in the draft. You can't just keep signing running backs and not getting in. You're not getting fresh faces in there. You're not getting guys that have different skill assets to, either play off of each other or complement each other or help Mac Jones out. It was really playing against Mac Jones. With that said, I did a video on Drake May and the Patriots draft picks probably about a month ago. You guys seem to really like it, so if you are a Patriots fan, go check that video out. But I talked about how much I was really kind of surprised, but really loved the Patriots draft this past year, because you get Drake May, who in my opinion is a phenomenal prospect. And you not only get him and just say, okay, hopefully it all works out, but you also get you get Javon Baker, you get Jalen Polk, like two young guys that can really benefit from having a young quarterback to learn with, but also being developed under a new offensive or a new head coach now, and I think offensive coordinator as well. Like, it's a whole new kind of era in New England starting. And I like that a lot. I think it really shows that there's really good things to come for the Patriots, especially on offense. But with that said, I don't see that happening in year one. If it does happen in year one, it means that Drake May comes out and looks phenomenal, which wouldn't entirely shock me. But it also means that people have to step up. That means Jalen Polk comes in and is a great rookie wide receiver. Javon Baker comes in and is great. You have Kendrick Bourne back and healthy. Demario Douglas. It means a lot of guys are stepping up in ways that you're not expecting, especially in a division as hard as theirs is. And they have a tough schedule even without the division, honestly. I was looking at it for like the offseason stuff I've done, and they have a tough schedule. I don't see a lot of wins for the Patriots. And just because, you make a lot of great moves, it doesn't mean it all is going to happen and come together in the first year altogether. I think this year we'll see some flashes. I think it'll be a rough year for the Patriots. I think after that it'll get better. And with that said, I am going to put the Patriots in C tier, and I could honestly even maybe put them in D tier. The reason I'm not putting them in D tier, though, is because I do believe in the guys that they've drafted, and I believe in Drake May to put together a somewhat competent offense. and at least give fans, while not getting a lot of wins, most likely, at least optimism for the future of that offense. And then next is the Packers. I've really been all in on the Packers. I'm going to put them A tier. I think some people, I remember comments like way back on a video I did, like ranking quarterbacks, when I've had Jordan Love in like that top 8 to 9 range. People haven't really liked that, but I'm going to stand on that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and that's, that's okay with me, but I got to be consistent with my rankings. Even a year ago, I made a video about Jordan Love going into 2023 and how he could, really be a great quarterback for them because he's in a pretty good situation. He's in a good offense. He's had time to sit and develop, and we've seen that work out for guys like Patrick Mahomes, even Steve Young way back when under Joe Montana. So we've seen that work. I was very confident in Jordan Love. He was much not as polished as I would have expected him to be in the first half of the season, but then we saw as the season went on, he really stepped it up. He was more careful with the ball. I mean, he looked very, very good. I'm going to, again, continue to kind of stand on that opinion that Jordan Love will be a top 10 quarterback this year. In an offense where, you bring in Josh Jacobs, you have Jaden Reed, who was very, very good his rookie season. You also have Romeo Doubs. You have Luke Musgrave, and the other guy that I can't remember his name is. It's the other tight end. But you have guys that are capable of stepping up and only getting better. And for what Jordan Love's shown, he's still relatively young. I wouldn't say he's, super young because, he's obviously sat for a few years. But, leading an offense that young, he is technically the oldest. And, I think there's still a lot of time for them to get even better. So I'm putting them A tier. And the Broncos is going to be, like, this is one of the toughest teams for me this offseason to really get a good opinion on because I just go back and forth so much. Because with Sean Payton going in there, I'm not really going to judge him too much off his first year because, Russell Wilson wasn't his guy. Like, he took over the team to get the job, but, like, that wasn't really Sean Payton. That's not what Sean Payton wanted to do. He wanted to get his guy, run his offense. Russell Wilson just didn't fit that. So it wasn't really, I think, a fair look of what Sean Payton actually brings to the Broncos. With that said, I don't entirely agree with taking Bo Nix that high. I think it's a little questionable, but I will say, Sean Payton has a vision for that team, and it seems like he's getting who he wants, or at least guys that he's, has no problem with. I think it is interesting. They trade for Zach Wilson, so you get two young quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Bo Nix. Just thought that was kind of, interesting strategy there. But regardless, you still have Courtland Sutton. You trade away Jerry Jeudy. I think you have Tim Patrick back and healthy, hopefully, after he's had like an ACL tear and Achilles tear 2 years in a row. Hopefully he bounces back from that. But you draft Troy Franklin really far back in the draft compared to where he could have gone, and which is also Bo Nix's teammate. So you're getting some chemistry there. I like the offensive changes, but there's too many question marks for me because I don't know what to expect from Bo Nix. I was honestly shocked he went as high as he did. I don't think he's going to be a bad quarterback, but I just think it's a lot of stock in a guy that I don't think was entirely worth being taken that high. But again, Sean Payton has a vision, and I hope it comes true for him and kind of, comes together. But I don't see that happening this year, and I'm putting the Broncos C tier, which might be a little surprising off of last year, but I really think this is going to be an entirely new look Broncos this season. Like, I don't think last year is a good thing to go off of like, this is the direction Sean Payton wants to go. I think that was just Sean Payton trying to get Russell Wilson off his team, and now he can start taking the Broncos where he wants them to be. So regardless, I think at quarterback you're going to have an issue because it's going to be a young guy one way or another, and there's going to be growing pains there. So the Broncos are going to have a season, in my opinion, how I see it, they're going to have a season that's going to start out pretty rough in the first half, and then I think it's going to get better as the season goes on and as Bo Nix gets acclimated a bit more to the league, to the NFL game speed, even just to the Broncos offense. His surrounding cast worries me a little bit, although I will say I think they'll have a pretty strong run game because they have a lot of options there. So Broncos are going C tier. They could probably be B tier. To be honest, I don't know. I'm still trying to decide on this team. So hopefully a month from now I'll have a better opinion on them. Next is the Raiders, and the Raiders are kind of similar to the Broncos for me because I don't know what to expect from Aiden O'Connell. I'm pretty surprised he's the starter this year, to be honest. I thought they'd go elsewhere. I think if Bo Nix fell to them, I think they probably would have taken him, to be honest. The Raiders are an interesting team, though. Aside from quarterback, you have pretty good weapons. Like, you have Devontae Adams, you have Jacoby Myers, you draft Brock Bowers, you drafted Michael Mayer last year. You have the personnel to be a somewhat competent offense. For me, I don't trust Aiden O'Connell at all. I wasn't blown away with him. Maybe he has a big jump in year 2. I don't know. Personally, I don't see it, and the Raiders are going C tier for that reason. The quarterback position really scares me for both the Raiders and the Broncos, and it holds me back from being more aggressive with their predictions. So I had them both in C tier because of that, pretty much. Next is the Saints, and I just did a video going over their entire season. It's like almost an hour long, grading like almost every single player in that offense and defense, sorry, and doing record predictions, all that kind of stuff. So if that sounds like something you guys would like, go check that out. I'm putting them B tier though, and the Saints are pretty much in the middle of the road for everything, in my opinion. Everything I've seen from the Saints, it's like nowhere on that team really blows me away, but nothing's necessarily bad. They're just kind of right there in the middle. I do think this year you have Kendre Miller more involved, and that helps you a lot, and he helps you out a lot. You have Alvin Kamara, who's very solid in the receiving game. I think he's slowed down a bit in the rushing game, but still, receiving wise, he's probably one of the best receiving backs in the entire NFL. And then, Chris Olave, who is unbelievable in my opinion. Rashid Shaheed drops off a bit after that, but I think it's still good enough to be a somewhat competent offense, be competitive. Not a whole lot more than that, but I don't think they'll be bad necessarily either. Next is the Giants, and the Giants are yet another team that I am just not sold on a quarterback. I'm shocked Daniel Jones still has a starting job there. I really am. One thing I will say though is, because I've said before that I'm completely out on Daniel Jones at this point. I feel like I've given him, like I got kind of played last year. I was like all in on the Giants. Like I was like, no, 2022 not a fluke year. They're building off of this. They're gonna be great, and that was not the case. I will say though, Daniel Jones has never had super elite weapons. So if for some reason he is still the guy, even though personally I don't see it anymore, I think Malik Neighbors, the guy they drafted, can absolutely bring that out of Daniel Jones, if that's still in there. If that potential is still there for him. So regardless though, I think Malik Neighbors is a stud. I think he's going to be awesome regardless of who's in there. I think better quarterback play will definitely elevate his ability as well. But I do think he'll have a solid rookie year. I like him a lot. It's just quarterback really kind of scares me, and I'm not blown away by any other weapons they have either, to be honest. And then next is the Titans, and the Titans again is a really interesting one for me because Will Levis, I think, is very capable of making a big jump in year 2. He has a very solid receiving core with Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, and DeAndre Hopkins. You bring in Tony Pollard for running back in free agency. You still have Tajay Spears. You also have, I can never remember the tight end's name, like Okonkwo, I think is his name. So you have an okay offense. Like you have the potential to honestly probably be like a, B tier, A tier offense. I'm going to put the Titans in C tier though, because of a few reasons. Number one, I want to see Will Levis be more consistent before I rank him much higher, because last year we definitely saw flashes. Will Levis has an unbelievable arm. We knew that. He's a tough runner if he needs to run, but I'm not necessarily blown away by his receiving core, because while they are solid and they're notable names, Tyler Boyd is not what he was at one point in Cincinnati. And kind of similarly with Calvin Ridley, he's still really good too, but he's awfully inconsistent. He's not someone you can count on, I think, week in and week out. So Hopkins, I think, is still just unbelievable, to be honest. Like, he, of course, he's not, prime DeAndre Hopkins, but he's going to come down with some crazy catches and make big plays for you. Overall, though, I see the Titans' offense being relatively inconsistent, but I will say that starts with Will Levis, and we truthfully haven't seen that yet, so I'm not going to break them much higher than this. But this is a team that could change a month from now when I rank this all again. Next is the Jaguars. I'm putting them B tier. The Jaguars are like my sleeper team last year. I was like, Trevor Lawrence, dark horse for MVP. One of the teams that could go on like a potential big playoff run. I was kind of all in on the Jaguars being a surprise team. And honestly, it was the opposite. I think they disappointed, honestly, a lot of people's expectations. Granted, I don't think anyone expected the Texans to kind of rival them in that division, but it is what it is. It happened. I think Lawrence though, and here's the thing: I've seen so much Trevor Lawrence slander, and has he lived up to his expectations? Probably not. But his rookie year was so bad with Urban Meyer, and in 2022 it's much better. And then this past year, like I understand his statistically maybe he's not great. But I really encourage you, go onto YouTube, okay? Click off this video after you're done or right now, and just see if you can find a compilation of dropped touchdown passes this past season for Trevor Lawrence, because there's you could probably find at least a minute and a half of plays that should have been caught for a touchdown and they were just completely dropped that Trevor Lawrence had right on the money. So you can't look at the stats too much there, because Lawrence played a lot better than the numbers would show, and sometimes it was guys like Calvin Ridley dropping those passes. But regardless of that, Lawrence has not been his best. He was hurt this past year. I think his numbers did decline a bit, before and after that. I think it was ankle injury, so that's also understandable. I think Lawrence can bounce back this year, and the Jaguars can as well. But the reason I don't have them A tier like I could have had before is because I think their offense is going to look a bit different than what we may have seen a couple of years ago, or even just last season for that matter. I think they've made a focus on wanting to put the ball in Tank Bigsby's hands as well, and not making ETN like this workhorse, getting a bunch of touches a game. So to me, I feel like it's going to be a bit more split in the rushing game, and then ETN will be more involved in the receiving game. Then also you draft Brian Thomas Jr., so you have him in there as well, with Christian Kirk. So you still have, and Evan Ingram. So you have a really good offense on paper. It's just the way that it's going to, I think, kind of work this year. It's going to be a bit different than I think people might expect, or compared to like what we've seen, last year, the year prior. So I'm going to be a little conservative with that one as well, like I've been with all these teams so far. I'm going to be consistent with that, and put them B tier because of that. And speaking of being conservative, this might be, I mean, look, I'm not sure how you guys are going to feel about this. I'm putting the Vikings in B tier. That's B tier, because there's really only one reason, and it's JJ McCarthy. And it's not that I think he's going to be bad. It's not that I think he's going to be really good. It's that I literally have no idea what to expect from him. Like, I don't think anything about JJ McCarthy screams like, anything bad. Like, I don't think he's going to be like a bad player. But I'm not sure if I trust him to consistently get the ball to guys like Justin Jefferson. And that's the good news too, is that if he is even just an average quarterback, maybe even a little below average, just get the ball to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and you will be okay. But again, I've been conservative with all these teams. I made a point of saying for rookie quarterbacks, I'm going to especially be more conservative. That's why I ranked them there. If JJ McCarthy comes out and is a decent quarterback, the Vikings will be an A-tier offense just because of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones, all those guys. Like it's no question. It is the quarterback that scares me a little bit. And it's also, who is the quarterback that kind of scares me a little bit. Is Sam Darnold really going to play, 8 games this season? We don't really know. So until there's more clarity on that, I'm going to put them B tier. And again, a month from now, maybe we see more of Sam Darnold in training camp and I change that, or vice versa with JJ McCarthy in there. I don't know. But right now, the Vikings offense is just going B tier. And then the 49ers, I'm going to spend pretty much no time on this. They're going S tier. Like, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Kittle, Ayuk, Samuel, it is what it is. I will say, it'll be interesting if Debo or Ayuk gets dealt before the season starts. That will make things heat up a little bit, I will say. But even at that, you drafted rookie, or not Rocky, what did I just say, Ricky? Did I say rookie? You drafted Ricky Pearsall, who I think will step in there and be honestly really good if need be. So I'm not even worried at all for the 49ers. They're going S tier. Next is Washington. And Washington, I'm not going to lie, I don't see the biggest year from them. I think they have a lot to figure out. Number one, it's Jayden Daniels. Just see what you have in Jayden Daniels. If Jayden Daniels has a pretty good individual season, even if you only win 4 games, who cares? You have your guy, start building around him. That is perfectly fine. You're already in a tough division, so I would say win the division, kind of out of the picture, I'm not going to lie. But I will say, Washington has potential to be a sneaky good offense because of some guys that might not be looked at as being serious weapons, like Luke McCaffrey, who they drafted. I don't think he's going to be someone that steps in there day one and lights it up, but I think he can really provide some meaningful minutes to that team down the stretch. Austin Eckler, I'm not blown away at this stage of his career. Yeah, he's a solid veteran to have in there. He'll make some plays, I'm sure. He is not... if you Google Austin Eckler highlights, that is not the player you're getting in Washington. I'm going to be honest with you. But still, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson Jr., you got some weapons on that team. The Washington offense, it is totally possible that they are very, very good. It might be a stretch. It's totally possible that they are pretty good, but I am putting them C tier. There's too many question marks for me. There's too many guys that need to step up and also Jaden Daniels be very good in year one for it to all come together immediately. I'm not saying that they're never going to be good or that Jaden Daniels won't be good. Just in year one, there's a lot of question marks for him. But I still think, again, I think they have some sleepers on that offense, especially with Ben Sinnott, I think, who they drafted for tight end. He's someone that I think can be a big factor in the receiving game. So again, they have some underrated guys on there. That's all I'm saying. Next is the Bills, and like I think on paper you could put the Bills in B tier. I'm not doing that. I'm putting the Bills in A tier, and I refuse to believe Josh Allen's going to be on a B tier offense. Like I don't see it happening. The level of play he's currently at, I just can't see the Bills offense ever being that bad for as long as he's at, his current level of play. Obviously, as he gets older, he'll decline like all players do. But for right now, with the way he's playing, I can't see them being any worse than A tier. Because, you lose Stephon Diggs, you lose Gabe Davis, but for Josh Allen, he elevates the entire team, and he can extend plays, he can kill you with his legs, he can, he's an amazing arm, so he can beat you over the top. Like, he can do so many things well that you don't need the best receiver at every single, wide receiver 1, 2, 3. You don't need the best at each position there to be a good offense. You just need guys that Josh Allen can either put in the right spots, or their offensive coordinator, or the scheme, or guys to do on their own. It doesn't matter. You don't need the best of the best to be productive in this offense. With that said, are there question marks? Absolutely. Like, from Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs connection, you're now going, Josh Allen to Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel. Like, it's definitely a drop-off, but you still have someone like James Cook. You have Dalton Kincaid. You have guys that are going to put up numbers just because of the way this offense works with Josh Allen in there. And I'm not putting them below A tier. I still see them being, an A tier offense this year, despite all the changes. Next to the Seahawks. The Seahawks are going B tier. The Seahawks, I think, are just always going to kind of have, well, not always. I think, from the past few years to right now, I think they've been a B tier offense. I don't think it's anything different this season either. You have Geno Smith, very solid. Kenneth Walker, very solid. Zach Charbonnet, very solid. Metcalf's great. Lockett's great. Jackson Smith and Jigba in his second year, I think he'll have a bit of a better year there too. So I see the Seahawks as being a pretty good offense, but not a whole lot more than that. Next is the Bengals, and they're going A tier. That might upset a few Bengals fans in the comments, but I am telling you, if that does upset you, go watch my Joe Burrow video I did a month ago where I talked about how the Bengals could potentially make it back to the Super Bowl with the way they have, their team set up right now, at least on paper. Also, a big thing since I filmed that video to right now, T. Higgins is going to sign the franchise tag and play this year. Personally, I would still be shocked if he's on this team, anytime after the season's over. I don't think he's going to be here long term, but you have one more season with Chase, with Higgins, with Burrow, the big three, to go make a run at it. So the reason I have them A tier, though not S tier, is because of Joe Burrow. And again, I've been concerned with every single pick here. I'm not going to call Joe Burrow injury prone, but I am not going to rank him above guys that just won MVP, went to the Super Bowl, led a top 5 offense. I just can't do that because I don't see the teams I'm going to have above him in a little bit here. I don't see them being worse, or I don't see them being worse than they were last year. So for that reason, they're going A tier. Are the Bengals capable of being S tier? Absolutely. It's just the way that I've done this tier list with being relatively, conservative, like I said 50 times now. That's why I have them there. But at the end of the day, you bring in Mike Gesicki, you bring in Zach Moss, you still Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you draft Jermaine Burton. You have a great offense. You are very capable of making a run at it this year. Just got to see Joe Burrow healthy and stay healthy. And that's really what's going to determine the Bengals season. Next is the Chiefs. I don't think we need a huge analysis on this one. They're going S tier. Mahomes, Kelsey, Rice, draft Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Pacheco, potential three-peat, S tier. I mean, that's just kind of, next is the Steelers. Okay, this is like the opposite of the Chiefs because it's like an actually really interesting team to talk about. So, if you're a Steelers fan, first off, comment down below whether you want Russell Wilson or Justin Fields leading your team. I would really like to know your guys' thoughts on that. But how I see it, I think it's going to be better regardless. Kenny Pickett was really, really bad. Not to point the obvious, but he was really, really, really bad. And I didn't see that coming because, to be honest, I was relatively high on Kenny Pickett. I think I had him as a B-tier quarterback entering last season because he finished 2022 strong, and he looked good in the offseason. He looked good in preseason. Everything from the regular season of that at the end of that year to the offseason to the beginning of the next season pointed to him making a jump, and it just did not happen. So Russell Wilson is an upgrade in my opinion. Justin Fields is an upgrade, and to me, that's all you need. That offense is definitely I'm gonna say B tier because you have George Pickens. I think losing Deontay Johnson is a bit of a bigger loss than what people might expect because he has made some drop issues, doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, but again, he's an amazing separator, and that helps out a quarterback a whole lot. I think his presence will be missed a little bit, but regardless, you have Pat Freiermuth, you have Najee Harris, you have Jalen Warren. George Pickens now is the wide receiver 1. That should be very, very exciting. So you drafted the rookie receiver. I can't remember what his name is. It's really bothering me. But regardless, you draft him too. Steelers are going B tier. I bet Fields has the starting job by the time the season's over, though. I'm just going to throw that out there. I do think that might happen. Next is the Cowboys. They're going S tier. For offenses, the Cowboys always have one of the best, even if it doesn't amount to a whole lot. You got Dak, you got CD. I think you lose Michael Gallup, but I think you still have Brandon Cooks, if that's correct. You have Jake Ferguson, who's honestly a really, really solid tight end. And then, running back is a little questionable. I think you have, Dowdle, I think is his name, Dowdle. And you have Ezekiel Elliott, too, now back in there for whatever that's worth. But I think either way, Dallas is going to have a very, very good, high-powered, aggressive downfield offense once again. And, they're going S tier because of that. And then next is the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are going to go B tier because here's the thing. They were A tier last year. I think them losing Dave Canales and their offensive coordinator, Brad Idzik, is going to hurt them a bit more than people are expecting because they did a lot for that team. Now, here's what I will say, though. Some of the things that they've instilled in Baker Mayfield, I don't think are just going to go away. I think Baker is truly a better player because of that coaching, because of that offensive change, that he's not just going to drop off a cliff. I do think maybe the consistency of the offense is going to be a bit different. But what I will say, though, because even though they lose the coaching, you do have Chris Godwin going back to the slot this year, where he has always been much more productive. So it's always possible they're A tier once again, but because of this being a more conservative tier list with how my predictions are for right now, I'm going to put them B tier, which is, we still have Baker, still have Mike Evans, Cade Otton, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White, and you draft Bucky Irving as well. So you have a very solid offense. B tier is really the floor, and that's why they're just going to go there for right now, and we'll revisit that in a month. And then next is the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to go A tier. When you have an offense with Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, I just I can't rank them much lower than A. I'm not going to put them S, but they're A. They're one of the most. In my opinion, they're one of the most fun offenses to watch. So they're going A tier, and actually joining them in A tier is going to be the Rams. This was a team that I was so wrong about entering last season, and now Stafford looked amazing. Puka Nacua, one of the best storylines of last season. Amazing player, stepped up huge for them. Cooper Kupp still there too. Kyron Williams, you draft Blake Corum. I like the Rams offense a whole lot. They're going A tier. I don't see them being worse than last year at all. And then next is the Jets, and they're going to go A tier here because I see them as a little boomer bust, but I just want to see Aaron Rodgers play for the Jets. Is that too much to ask? Can we please just have him stay healthy just for one year? That's all I want to see, man. That's all I'm asking for is 1 year of a healthy Aaron Rodgers in there. I think it's going to make all the difference. It's not like a hot take. I mean, it's clear this offense has been held back by poor quarterback play for the past however many years now. You have Breece Hall and you have Garrett Wilson, two guys that could be, top 10 at both of their respective positions. And, they're not reaching that potential because of the way the offense has been ran. But you draft Malachi Corley as well. I think he could be a pretty good rookie receiver there too. So, yeah, I think the Jets offense is a little boomer bust. I've said it before. But regardless, I do think they're going to be an A-tier offense. The next is the Lions. They're going S-tier. The Lions offense is just so good. Jared Goff does a great job running that offense and distributing the ball to, all these different guys like Amon St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. Really, really good player. Sam Laporta, who they drafted, really, really good player again. That last year's draft of the Lions was phenomenal, and I did not see it at the time. But, yeah, it was really well done. And also, Dave Montgomery, too. Very, very, very solid running back there for a lot of those goal line carries. So they're going S tier. Love the Lions offense. And we'll talk about the Lions again in just a second for a reason that you'll see in a second. Next is the Cardinals, though. And the Cardinals, if I were to go all in on Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., I put him B tier. Not going to do that quite yet, though. And I made a video talking about this that I feel like the Cardinals offense is really not being talked about enough because Kyler Murray, when healthy, is a very good quarterback, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the entire NFL. You add Marvin Harrison Jr., instant day one starter. I think he's going to light it up immediately. Michael Wilson last year, who had a very solid rookie season, even though it wasn't talked about because the Cardinals were just kind of, meh. And then you have Trey McBride, very good tight end last year that I think once again come back this year, I think it's only going to get better. And then James Conner as well. Like I think Trey Benson, who they drafted, it has potential to be a very solid offense, especially B tier. So again, said before, said 1,000 times now. Conservative rankings for right now. They're going C tier. When we revisit this in a month, though, don't be surprised if I put the Cardinals in B tier. Just kind of go all in on that offense. Next is the Falcons, though. They're going A tier. Again, talk about a team that was held back by poor quarterback play. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They're like the definition of that these past few years. I think as long as Kirk bounces back from that Achilles injury, which I think he so far is on pace for, I don't think there's any setbacks or anything like that, which is very good. You have, Bijan Robinson out of the backfield, who is supposed to be used more like Christian McCaffrey from what he said, which is very intriguing and very scary being a Panthers fan. Tyler Algier, who's a very solid running back as well, being running back too. And then Drake London. You have Darnell Mooney, I believe, from free agency. You have Kyle Pitts. And you have the other Falcons receiver I'm forgetting, which is going to probably anger some Falcons fans. But yeah, you have a very, very good offense. So I think it's all going to come together for him this year with Kirk Cousins in there. And it should be a very exciting offense to watch, unfortunately, for me being a Panthers fan. Texans are going S tier. I'm going all in on the Texans. Even though that's more conservative, going S tier. CJ Stroud, I think this year will solidify himself as a top 5 quarterback. You have Stephon Diggs. You have Nico Collins. You have Tank Dell. You have Dameon Pierce and somebody else running back, Joe Mixon. And then you also have Dalton Schultz. So really, really good offense. I'm super excited to see the Texans and with CJ Stroud in year 2. I think it'll be really good. And last season, my big kind of sleeper team was the Jaguars, like I said. This year, I'm staying in the AFC South. I'm going with the Colts. Colts are going A tier. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going all in on the Colts this year, especially on offense. This team last year had a disastrous start to their season with their potential franchise guy going down. Gardner Minshew steps in there. They have a really good season, almost make the playoffs. Michael Pittman Jr. has a very solid year. Now you get Richardson back in there, who looked honestly really good in the small sample size we saw of him. He has Michael Pittman Jr. He has Josh Downs now in year 2. He has A.D. Mitchell, who fell pretty far in the draft, who the Colts got. Jonathan Taylor still. This is a really, really good offense at its best. And I think Richardson unlocks it for every single person on there. I think a lot of these guys are going to hit their potentials. I think Josh Downs will have a great year too. I love the Colts offense. I like the Colts as a whole this year a lot as well. Colts are going A tier. Chargers, this is such a tough team for me to rank. They're going to go C tier, which just feels weird to do because they have Justin Herbert on their team. But I don't know, man. Look, you have Ladd McConkey, who you drafted. I'm a big believer in him. He's going to be a big playmaker, I think. But other than that, someone has to step up. And I hope it's Quentin Johnston because he had a very disappointing rookie season. Serious drop issues, just all around bad year. And, someone has to step up. And I hope it's him in year 2 because, they drafted him in the first round. They have at least at one point believed in him. So I do hope he bounces back. Someone's got to help out Herbert, though. Maybe it's DJ Chark, who they signed in free agency. I got to watch him in Carolina last year, and I wouldn't want to do it again. But you know what? Maybe in LA, he really steps it up. I don't know. But for those reasons, they got to go C tier. I love Justin Herbert, but I just, at a certain point, he can't have this, A tier offense if the guys around him are just seriously not capable of being that productive. So C tier, maybe B tier though. When we revisit this, we'll see, some of the offseason stuff, training camp stuff, how the offense is shaping up. Maybe we move them up, but for right now, they're going C tier. And the Browns are going to finish off at B tier. They are probably an A tier offense, with Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb back and healthy, which will probably be a few weeks into the season though. And then also Jerry Jeudy. Did I already say that? Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, who traded for? If I didn't, then him too. David Njoku. But to be honest with you, I don't believe in Deshaun Watson at all. I don't believe in Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to have this offense be solid, but not what they can be. Unless he gets back to his, how he was playing in Houston, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's just going to kind of be a shell of his former self at this point in Cleveland. I'm kind of on the fence about being, kind of out on Deshaun Watson. So with that said, though, I think the Browns will still be a great offense. It's just I don't see them being as good as they probably should be with him in there. But again, I hope I'm wrong, because I like the Browns a lot, to be honest. So that is going to kind of wrap up the offensive tier list for right now. If there's any of these do you feel like I placed too high, too low, let me know down below. The reason I decided to get back to the Lions, though, is because my S tier is like a top 6. If I were to move any team down, it would probably be the Lions and have a top 5 S tier. I'm going to leave them there, though, because I do think they're deserving of it. I think it's very hard for me to choose any of those teams to move down, but I think it'd be the Lions. But either way, though, comment down below which of my S tier teams you would move down to A tier to round out the top 5 offenses going into next season. Or maybe move up a team. Am I too low in the Bengals? Am I too low in the Bills, the Eagles, the Packers? I don't know. Let me know. So subscribe to my channel if you guys like the video. I would really appreciate it. Leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.